know what? I gotta try the shotgun just because it's
Okay.
it's so unique.
You gotta be kidding me.
That thing is awesome.
This is a bold step for us because, you know, obviously the country is very divided.
Yes, it is.
And so as a company, it's sometimes dangerous, it could be dangerous to take a political stance, especially in this election. But the fact of the matter is that there's no better person than your father to protect our Second Amendment. And so I really wanted to just kind of get in here and frame a narrative that we can stand behind and that we can try to get the people that love firearms in our community, in our industry, to, if they're on the fence, if they're worried about anything, to understand, like, you know, sometimes you have to look past some things.
Listen, I get that. That's the nature of politics. I mean, there are people, you know, in this day and age especially, it's not like, okay, well, I agree with a lot of that, but a little bit of this I disagree with. I mean, today there is a divide, and it's almost like a 50-50. You're one way or the other. And I think that's what's been unique about my father's candidacy, because, you know, all the people when we started during the primaries, like, well, you know, this person doesn't believe all 10,432 points of conservatism. He believes in 10,431. It's like, I don't know, that's pretty conservative. And initially it felt like the Republicans were like, we don't want to bring that person in. And my father was like, no, let's bring that person in. That's why you're seeing, you know, the union blue-collar men and women in this country, they're switching party lines to be able to vote for my father because he's a job creator. He's done it. And the Second Amendment for us, you know, for me, it's not just a passion and a hobby that I do every weekend. I mean, it's a lifestyle. It's the thing that they thought of, that our founding fathers thought of right after free speech and religion. I mean, this wasn't an afterthought afterwards. I mean, it's a basic right of an American, and we have to defend that. I mean, this wasn't an afterthought, you know, years later. I mean, the most basic aspect being the first, the second to protect that. And, you know, that can't be at risk. And when I see, you know, our opponent, and Hillary Clinton in this case, talking about the Supreme Court and getting the Heller decision wrong. And for those who don't know, that was basically, the Supreme Court said you have a right in a 5-4 decision. So this wasn't like a, you know, 9-0 decision. This was a 5-4. She said 5-4, that you have the right to keep a firearm in your home. That's it. Not concealed carry, certainly not anything about suppression, certainly not anything about Class 3, just the right to keep a firearm in your home. And she says the Supreme Court got that wrong. I mean, that's scary to me as an American, because what's next? Legislation for the sake of legislation. Just like government is bureaucracy for the sake of bureaucracy at this point. Just more rules and more government in your, you know, in your boardrooms, in your daily life, in your business, in your bedroom. We want to eliminate that. We want to, you know, allow law-abiding citizens to exercise their rights and go after the people who are actually committing crimes.
So why do you think that your dad is the right choice to protect our Second Amendment? And obviously the big question here is, I've heard it put in a way of who are you voting for the Supreme Court, right? Because the Supreme Court is such a big deal. Tell us why you think that it is your father would be the right choice.
Well, listen, for my father, as it relates to the presidency, it is all about the Supreme Court. We touched on it a little bit earlier. Hillary Clinton already said she doesn't believe the Supreme Court got the Heller decision right, which was simply to keep and bear firearms in your own home. She doesn't think they got it right. And that said you could do it in a 5-4 decision. So it was close. You have 4 or 8 years under that kind of leadership. You have justices that are statistically above the average age that justices have made it, and you could have 3 or 4 liberal justices, maybe even 5, legislating from the bench, and your Second Amendment rights would be gone. If you lose the Supreme Court and you lose 2 or 3 justices, that's a 30 or 40-year swing, and it's probably something you never recover from.
Yeah, it would change the landscape of our country for generations,
without question. It would likely never come back. You turn into Europe, where you have essentially a socialist state where, you know, everything's a process-driven, bureaucratic, rules-based society. You know, where entrepreneurship and free thought are, you know, lacking. You know, as it relates to the Second Amendment, it's much less about the presidency than it is about the Supreme Court. I don't want to take what I've seen this country be and what I grew up in and just watch it wither away. That's not what we are as Americans.
So you're here at Silencerco. Why did you agree to come here?
Well, listen, I believe in American manufacturing. I love your product. I don't get to use it in the People's Republic of New York, but I've got to shoot it all over the country, and
We're trying to change that.
I know that, and I think you should. I mean, I've had the privilege of being able to hunt in Europe, where some of the strictest gun laws in the world exist. And guess what? Virtually every hunting gun there is suppressed. It's about safety. If you had that kind of noise levels in any other industry as you would in shooting sports, OSHA would be all over the place. People would be going crazy. I mean, it's about safety. It's just another rule the government wants to put in place for no reason. Because if Europe can do it, America better well be able to do it.
It's crazy to
Doesn't
be
make any sense to me.
behind the curve to Europe when it comes to a firearms issue, right? Like
Basically anything, but especially a firearms issue. I mean, that's hard to believe, and that's, again, arbitrary policies by people who don't know what they're talking about.
yeah, I mean, you've heard what the hunter salute is, right?
Yeah, no, what? You can't hear, and I see it,
So we talked a little bit this morning when we were at breakfast. We talked about the Hearing Protection Act that's in legislation right now. If we don't get it through this session and your father is president, do you think that that's something that he will sign?
We want to go through Congress. We want to do it the right way. But if you line up those votes, he's obviously going to be for it. I mean, it wouldn't make sense otherwise. I mean, if you have this isn't, again, in my understanding and from some of the people I know, because there are some Democrats out there that do believe in those in the Second Amendment and are out there. And if you have co-sponsors and you're able to do that, I mean, that's the art of the deal, getting everyone to understand. Because it feels to me that when it comes to virtually anything Second Amendment related, the people that are most against it are the people who really have never done it. The people who wouldn't know a trigger from a muzzle, and they're writing arbitrary legislation because they're afraid of the unknown. They haven't ever gone to a range. They haven't ever tried it. So I'd recommend they do that.
All right, thank you. I really appreciate you coming. And
Great to see good American manufacturing also. I want to make sure that exists and stays in this country. They want to ship it all abroad.
thank you. We American-made, American-sourced raw materials as well. So something we believe in very strongly.
Thanks, Josh.
And your father is someone that we believe in very strongly as well. So thank you very much.
I appreciate it. It means a lot to us. It really does.